How you doing? My name is Gregg Stein. Welcome to Success at Scale with Triple G Ventures. You know, this podcast is inspired by comedians in cars getting coffee. But you know what? Today, it's not comedians in cars getting coffee. It's just a couple of knuckleheads. And yes, we do have our coffee. I've got my old friend here, Frank McDermott. Frank and I go way, way back. He started I got to know him back in, like middle school, I think, originally. And we've stayed
Yep.
friends all these years. And now we're working together on this really exciting project called DAR.WIN. And I'm sure he'll tell you all about that. But again, I'm just super excited to have Frank on. And for me, this podcast is so much more than the typical average podcast. We want to keep it practical. We want to keep it real. And we want to keep it geared towards leveraging something that Frank and I both truly love, which is music. And what that really means is, because a lot of people aren't musicians, it's really about creativity and how do you take creativity and bring it to business, especially during this time. Today, though, I really want to focus on with Frank how to leverage AI, machine learning, and accelerating growth in whatever business you might be in. So without further ado, welcome, Frank. Tell us a
Thank you,
little bit
buddy.
about you.
Thank you very much for the intro. It's awesome to be here. Essentially, I got my start in college. I started my first company in college. I took some entrepreneurship classes where we studied a lot of different types of businesses, and it was right during the dot-com boom. And so we were really inspired at the time to get into software and try to be the next tech entrepreneur. And I started my first company there, and I have essentially not stopped since. It's just been in this amazing run, and to that point, just an amazing evolution of my career, where I've been able to do a lot of amazing things with a lot of amazing people. And here we are together, almost 30 years later,
It's hard to believe.
still killing it, man. Yeah, exactly. So.
It's hard to believe. Now, Frank, you've worked with an incredible, number of top-notch, amazing brands. What are some of the things that you've learned about, or what makes some of these brands successful? What makes them tick?
It's going to be different for each one, but I'll start off with an example. So when I used to work for a company called Voss Water, and it's a company based out of Norway, but they were headquartered in New York, and I was like their eighth employee. And I get there, I didn't never even heard of the company, and they're like, okay, well, you're going to be in the operations department. You're pretty smart. You'll figure stuff out. And probably for after 10 minutes of being in the office, the phone keeps ringing, phone keeps ringing, phone keeps ringing, and everyone's calling from around the world. Where can we get your water? Where can we get your water? And I'm sitting there, and we lived in or we worked in a big open area, and everyone's sitting around this huge table, and everyone would take turns answering the phone, including the CEO, the president, the founder, me, the secretary, the finance person, everyone. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, I've never seen this before in my life. And I'm like, what's going on? And they're like, we just hit it. It's like the bottle speaks to everyone. The bottle is the brand. The bottle is the image. When you carry it with you, people feel different. And that was my first experience with that. The thing that really got me, and it took me a little time to learn this, is that they never spent a nickel on advertising. They never put
Is
an
that
ad out in
so?
the paper.
Really?
They
Really?
never did anything. They spent a lot of money in marketing, and they would give away their product for free, and but it
Right.
was always in the best hotels. It was in the best restaurants. It was in celebrities' hands. They were like one of the pioneers to do all of that, and that's how they just scale demand. And for like the first 3 years I was there, like we went like this, without spending a nickel on advertising. And that was the power of the brand. Like that was this like the most amazing thing to see. And you would talk to these people on the phone. They would be in Texas, so Alabama, Georgia, New York, Canada, Europe, all wondering where they could get this. This is obviously when you could travel and go to a business meeting in a
Different
hotel.
time. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That obviously the model has to adapt to the circumstance. I don't know if it would really be work today, but it was amazing to see. It was like the most inspiring thing, and that also, you know, uh, compelled a lot of people internally. And this is how we have to protect it. And there was a lot of copycats. A lot of people were stealing the bottle concept and going after the look of what we had created. And really, the founder, Ole Sandberg, had created with this amazing guy, Neil Kraft, who's this genius designer based in New York, and they just created this a wonderful thing. And to see it in action and actually make money was like extraordinary for me. So that was like a real, and that was like in my 20s. We were just doing insane stuff like working our tail off in New
That's all right.
York.
You're only 25 now, so you're doing
Sure, yeah,
fine.
yeah. Thank you. But it was just this wonderful thing, and that has always stayed with me. Obviously, it's so hard to replicate that, but to have an experience of that and see it, the literal fruits of that labor was extraordinary, and that's inspired me ever since. As far as like, how do I, you know, put into my companies or my clients. Um, uh, that kind of fervor that people like want to use this thing. They have to have it, in the best way we can. Even for like non-sexy things like banking or finance or other things, that notion is still there.
You're one of these guys that strikes me as not only an entrepreneur, a tech guru, a leader, all this kind of great stuff. I also think you really fundamentally understand what it takes to build a brand. Is there a process? Is there a way of thinking about things? I mean, you talk about Voss. I mean, I don't know if they stumbled into it or what, but what's your takeaway as far as a process that someone could, take on board for themselves?
With Voss, I think there is obviously a creative genius behind it. And when I first saw the bottle, I kind of gasped. It just has that visual emotion to it. And even what I ended up working on was launching an energy drink for them. And the first thing we started, and I'd never even launched a beverage company before. I never worked for one, and they asked me to launch an energy drink for them. And
Oh,
they showed me a picture of the new bottle, and it was like this beautiful curved shape with like this like nice fit in your hand. And I was like, I understood immediately what we needed to do for the next year to launch this thing. And there in those cases, there is no process other than the creative process and just knowing what you have when you have it. If you wanted to replicate something like that, obviously it's quite a bit different.
sure.
And I think the process that I go through when you don't have even a physical thing, when you're dealing with something like software where you can't touch it necessarily, you have to have some kind of process that you can rely on. And so the things that I focus on are is like 4 or 5 tenets that I feel like are super important. One is like knowing your customer, knowing who is going to use this, and trying to get into their head and try to really focus on what's important to them and what makes their life better, stronger, faster. And second is how do you play into that? What's your value in this?
Hmm.
Knowing that from a brand perspective, that people like want to be associated with you and want to be able to use your product or service in a way that makes them feel better. You also want to know your competitors. There's a really important part where you need to focus on, it's not a me too thing. The world obviously needs more than one cleaning product, but we don't need more than one Clorox. And understanding that um, how you fit into the ecosystem of someone choosing, you versus someone else.
This is literally success at scale with Frank McDermott and Triple G Ventures, and super happy to be here. Thanks for listening. Have a great day.